The following is a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of or otherwise represent the advertiser. The opinions expressed therein are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
Good morning and welcome to Your Life, Your Money. I am Chris Creston, joined as always by Kelvin, the Money Guy. Who is Kelvin, the Money Guy? He is one of the top financial advisors in the country, and he's just a great guy to get to know and a great guy to listen to. So thank you so much for making us part of your Sunday morning here. If you have any questions about anything we're talking about on the air or anything else to do with your life, your money life especially, you can always reach Kelvin at 416-457-7526. That's 416-457-PLAN. And you can visit his website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. And without further ado, we should probably welcome the guy I've been talking about, Kelvin, the Money Guy. How you doing this morning, Kelvin?
Hey, Chris. Good. How are you keeping? Did you move?
Good. I moved. I am now in my new house. I'm doing the show from my closet because the rest of the place is super echoey without anything on the walls or all the furniture that we will eventually need. Moving from 700 square foot condo to a full suburban home leaves a lot of empty space. So I apologize if it is still a little echoey because I don't even have enough clothes to fill my closet. But it's been great, and it's I missed the chaos of the city a little bit. I moved from downtown Toronto to the suburbs, and the first night the silence was deafening. I'm used to the, honking horns, screaming people, sirens, the roar of the gardener, which I just convinced myself was the ocean after a few years, and now it is silent. You could hear a pin drop, which I know most people love, but it's going to take some getting used to. It took a little getting used to for my dog to realize that he can pee on things other than hard surfaces. He was looking for all kinds of sidewalks and lampposts and stuff, but didn't want to go on the grass. Anyway, I digress. That is my life, but not necessarily my money life. Maybe it pertains a little bit to my money life. But we're talking today about your RRSPs and your RIFs, and most importantly, when you should be converting that RRSP to a RIF. And I think most of us are sort of on autopilot. We're on a hamster wheel. We're contributing to those RRSPs. We are getting the tax refund and sort of thinking about it in a short-term sort of way. Maybe we're thinking long-term, thinking, well, you know what, this money's going away somewhere for my retirement. But we forget about how that happens, what that transition is. And for a lot of our listeners, it's probably happening really, really soon. And they've got to think about when they should be making that conversion. And some people, wait a minute, I got to convert. What is what is a RIF? And that is probably where we should start, is with that question. Explain to me, like I'm a 30-something, which I am, and that I am not thinking about my future, which I should be doing more of. What is a RIF?
So a RIF is the opposite of an RSP. When you're working, you're putting money in and you're getting a tax break. When you're ready to RIF the money or take it out, now you got to pay back the tax that you saved along the way. And a RIF is a Registered Retirement Income Fund. That's the acronym, RRIF. And you have to turn all your RSPs into a RIF when you're 71. And your first payment will come out when you're 72. And there's different things that you can do. There's different percentages. So for example, when you're 65 and you decide to turn it into a RIF, you take 4% of the money out, then it goes up to 5 and 6 and so on. So there's certain tables that you have to look to see how much money do you have to take out. Now, many people that I talk to on the radio or clients and so on, they're very confused with the RIF. Many people think when they turn the money into a RIF that they don't pay any tax. Well, that's where the problem starts. That's where all the taxes begin. And many people think they have to wait till they're 71 to turn the money into a RIF. And you don't have to. There's a bunch of rules, like everything else in our financial planning world, there's rules.
Mm-hmm.
And if you understand the rules, you could save yourself a lot of money on the tax side if you do it properly. But many of us, like everything else, we don't have a plan and we don't think about riffing the money. And I bet you if you survey 10 people, 9 will tell you that there's no tax to pay on your riff. And I don't know why we think that. I have no idea. And many people don't know why. So you could grow your savings tax deferred. You can transfer your RSPs, do an in-kind transfer of your RSPs into a RIF. And once the assets are there, they're going to grow on a tax-free basis. But what people have to keep in mind is that whenever you touch the RIF, whenever you touch your RSPs, you've got to pay tax on it. So just remember, any money withdrawn from a RIF is taxable on your income that year. So you have to be very mindful of what your income is. So people might have CPP, old age, maybe a company pension, things like that. So you want to be very strategic when you want to do. So for example, if you don't need the money, let's say you're 65 and you're ready to retire and you're getting your old age or CPP work pension, and now you turn it into a RIF. It might be the smart thing to do rather than waiting till you're 71, because now if you don't need the money, you could put it into a tax-free savings account if you have the room. So you pay taxes on one hand, but you're getting it back on the other. So use these TFSAs and RIFs to your advantage. So sit down and do some strategic planning about, should I take the money now or should I hold off till I'm 71? In many cases, what I find is, don't wait till you're 71 to convert your money into a RIF. Do it now.
So think of 71 as the deadline. You've got to convert that money by the time you're 71 or at your 71st birthday or something like that. But you don't necessarily have to do it all right then. So if you pace it and you do it strategically, you're not going to find yourself with a huge tax bill when it comes time. And the whole point of putting that money into an RRSP was to save money on taxes. But the tax man wants to get paid, and he'll find a way to do it, right? That's the whole design.
Well, lots of people that are in their 70s, really mad that they bought an RSP when they were younger, because they didn't realize they got to pay the money back. But if you have a regular income stream, like I say, like a pension, things like that, you should start taking out your RIFs, depending on your age. And if you take the minimum payment, there's no withholding tax. So for example, if you take $5,000 out of an RSP, the government withholds 10%. If you take out 5,000 to 20,000, they take 20%, sorry. And anything above that, they withhold 30%. So if you have a whole bunch of money in your RSPs, maybe you want to turn some of it into a RIF right now and take the minimum withdrawal, which at 65 is 4%. And they're not going to pay that withholding tax, that 10% or whatever the withholding tax is. So at least you're saving some money there. If you don't need the income, like I said before, just put it into a tax-free savings account, and now your money is compounding for you. See, when you take, if you take more than the minimum from your RIF, then you're paying the withholding tax. So it could be a big saving for a lot of people. So if you say you've got 200,000 in your RSP, actually, I shouldn't say 200, 60% of Canadians have about $93,000 in their RIF. So say you have 100,000 in your RIF. You might, or in your RSPs, you might want to maybe convert half of it into a RIF now and start withdrawing the money if you need it or don't need it. And there's many things you can do strategically depending on your financial circumstances, on your net worth. I think people need to really examine the RIF, because we don't. We worry about RSPs and TFSAs and things like that. But the RIF is could be a powerful tool for us before we hit 71. So I think we need to explore those kind of things, and we rarely do. And remember, I said every day, I forget what it is, 1,000 Canadians turning 65 every day. So it means that the RIF is becoming more of a important thing than the RSPs now. So you really have to be strategic so you don't lose all the growth and all the tax savings that you had over your work. A lot of people regret, like I say, buying RSPs only because they didn't realize that the taxes are back-end loaded. You got to give it back.
And that's the thing. And I think that one of the things that I brought up before is that, present Chris doesn't think too much about future Chris, and future Chris looks back at past Chris and says, man, I wish you thought a little bit more about me. I wish you planned a little bit more for me. And now's the time to do it. So if you're approaching that age, if you're coming up to that time of your life, this is the perfect time to start thinking about that RIF and start educating yourself on exactly what it is you need to do. And one of the first places to start educating yourself is what you're doing right now. You're already on the right step. You're listening to Kelvin, the Money Guy. You're listening to Your Life, Your Money, and you're getting some ideas about where you can go. You can go to your financial advisor and ask them about what it is that you should be doing. You can call Kelvin, and that's a great place to start as well. 416-457-7526. That's 416-457-PLAN. Hey, we were just talking about planning. 416-457-7526. 416-457-PLAN. You can visit his website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. And we'll continue along here on Your Life, Your Money with Kelvin, the Money Guy, in just a couple of minutes. And we'll continue talking about the different strategies that you can take as you're looking to convert your RSP into a RIF. When is the best time? How can you do it? And what are the advantages to making a few different strategic plans as you move forward? Again, call Kelvin anytime, 416-457-7526. That's 416-457-PLAN. And visit his website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. More of Your Life, Your Money, continuing here on Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
You are listening to a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of or otherwise represent the advertiser. The opinions expressed therein are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
And welcome back to Your Life, Your Money right here on Global News Radio 640 Toronto. I am Chris Creston, joined as always by Kelvin, the Money Guy. You can visit his website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. And you can call him 416-457-7526. That's 416-457-PLAN. This hour, we're talking about your RSP and how you turn that into a RIF, when the best time to turn that into a RIF is. And a lot of people don't think a lot about it until maybe it's too late. There's a deadline that's 71 years old. At that point, you've got to turn that RSP, all the money that you've been accumulating, trying to do tax-free. Well, the tax man wants his money, and you're going to have to pay it some way or another. And the RIF is just sort of the way that you're going to flip that RSP on its head and start withdrawing that money. Problem is, that's where you start to have to pay some money back. That's where you have to start paying some of the taxes that you got in those refunds all your life back to the tax man. How do you do this properly? How do you strategize to make sure that you are keeping the most of your money so that you can spend it on yourself, on your family, on your food, on your shelter, on all the things that you need, and also the things that you want to make your retirement the comfortable and hopefully luxurious one that you had planned? That Freedom 55 commercial of someone, a woman hand gliding and saying, well, this is us. How did we do this? Well, retirement planning is how you do it. And knowing a guy like Kelvin, the Money Guy, is probably a great place to start. askkelvin.ca is that website, 416-457-7526. And, Kelvin, one of the questions, Freedom 55, do you have to be a certain age to start riffing your money? Like, I'm 35. Can I have Freedom 35? Can I start riffing my money now? Not that I have that much saved.
Well, that's the thing. You can start riffing at any age, right? You can turn a portion of your RSPs into a RIF. You can turn it back into there's many maneuvers you can do depending on your lifestyle, depending on your income. So no, you don't have to wait till you're 65 or 70 to do it. The trouble is when you're younger, like your age or 40 years old or 50, you typically don't have a lot of money in your RSPs. So, riffing doesn't make any sense. Right. It's not gonna make you rich.
And you still have a lot more working years ahead of you as well.
Yeah. Well, one thing you can do is that you can base your RIF payments on your spouse's age if it's advantageous. So, for example, while the minimum payments are required when you're setting up the RIF account, you can elect the minimum payment based on your spouse's age. So if your spouse, your partner is younger than you can use their age to lower your withdrawal. And then now you're enjoying a tax-free world longer. So your money's compounding tax-free because remember, there's no withholding tax on the minimum amount. So if you sit down with your financial advisor and plan it out properly, you can not pay no tax, but you can lower the amount of tax that you pay and prolong your investments for a longer time so that if you live longer, you probably don't have to worry too much. So the RIF is a really powerful tool, but we don't think about it as Canadians. We don't think about that. We worry about the RSPs, we worry about the stock markets going up and down, things like that we can't control, but we can control the RIF payments when we start it, when we stopped it, not when we stopped it, but when we started, and how much do we turn into a RIF at a certain age. So once you know the rules, it's like everything else, right? Once you know the rules and you live within those rules, you'll save yourself a lot of money depending on your age and how much money you have in there, right?
I think we kind of live in I'm going to get dark and philosophical here, a death-denying culture here in Canada, in the Western world. I think we often don't like to think about that end of life. And maybe that's why we don't educate ourselves on RIFs, because I think it sort of reminds us of, as much as we want to retire and stop working for the man and, start enjoying ourselves and enjoying that time off. I think we don't like thinking about those sorts of things that happen towards the end of the life, in the twilight of our age, because we don't want to think about it. It makes us, we don't think about it because it scares us and it depresses us to think about getting old. But it's only going to be depressing if you don't have a plan. It's only going to be depressing if you're not prepared and you don't have, you don't have full control over those finances that you've spent a lifetime working at. You're slogging away at a job 9 to 5 or more every single day for most of your life. You want to try and hold on to as much of that capital as possible so that you can live a comfortable retirement. And by ignoring it, we're only making ourselves, more depressed when we get further down the road, and myself included. I'm not preaching here to anyone out there, because honestly, I'm one of these people too, who doesn't necessarily think that far ahead, and we really should. And if you're not one to plan and do things yourself, a good financial advisor is someone that you want to have on your team. Not only are you going to get a better return on your investment, but you're also going to have someone who's seen the road ahead, who's been there before for decades, planning out other people's retirements, and can see the pitfalls, can see the opportunities that you should be taking so that you can plan ahead and you can better plan for your retirement and save as much money as you possibly can and not have to pay needless money in taxes because you waited too long, or because you didn't think about it, or because you didn't bother trying to find out what a RIF is. And that's what we're learning about here. And that's what I got to keep reminding myself too. A good financial advisor is a great person to have on your team. And if you don't have one, you can visit askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. Or you can call them anytime, 416-457-7526. Kelvin, you were talking about how you're able to work your spouse's age into it. That's obviously, as if we needed another sort of incentive to marry someone much younger than us. I know all the guys and girls out there in the audience are probably thinking, oh, okay, all right, I can date someone 10 years younger than me. Okay, this might be a nicer retirement than I thought about, and not just for the financial reason.
And most people manage their money life in a rearview mirror. They always look backwards. So you should always look forward to what's going to happen in the next 5 years, 10 years of my life. Where am I going to be? So the next decade is, a lot of people at the end of this decade will be riffing in their 70s, right?
Yeah.
So what you want to do is do some strategic planning now. So, back in 2007, the government decided that the RIFF income qualifies as a pension income. So if you're over 65, you can split your income with your spouse if you're both 65. So what happens is maybe you want to start riffing your money, and split it up with your spouse. And what happens is you get a huge tax savings, because now instead of you, Chris, taking 100,000 of income, now you and your spouse, you take 50, she takes 50, and you've lowered the tax bracket. So you keep more in your pocket and you pay out less. So those are and that rule was started in 2007. So people that are 65 plus should maybe have a look at that. And then to take it a step further, you get a pension income tax credit of $2,000. So starting at age 65, the income from your RIF qualifies for the $2,000 towards the pension income. So that's a big savings for people, $2,000, right? That's a trip somewhere or something.
Yeah, $2,000 is a big. It's a big wad of cash. I don't care who you are, because I think, like you said, that's a trip. That's potentially something fancy, a new toy if you're looking for something for home. There's a lot you can spend $2,000 on, and I don't know. I don't know anyone who would rather give that $2,000 away than choose to use it for themselves. Hey, you want to help out other people? I get taxes help out other people, but you can give to charity. There's other things you can choose to do with that $2,000 rather than just hand it away to someone who may not be that responsible with it.
Yeah. So if you're already not using it with a private pension plan, it could be a lot of savings for you if you're 65 plus. So I would say people look into that. I think many people do it already, but I'm not really sure. Some people call me about it and they start taking it. So you always have to look at your life, where you are, at what stage are you in your life, your age, the amount of money you may have. Remember, if you have $500,000 in your RSPs, you really don't. You only have 250. Half of it, when the last spouse goes, is taxable at 50%, right? So maybe what you want to do is look at your life and say to yourself, what do you want? What do I have? I think that's where you need to start, is what do I have? And if my projected growth of my RSP is whatever rate or return you're getting, it doesn't matter what it is. And then work backwards to see where you are. One of the trick with the RIFs is to make sure that, if you have to take out 5% every year, depending on your age, make sure you earn 5%. Some people out there at their RIF, they put it in a GIC or they put it in a bank account, earning them less than 1%. Meanwhile, they're taking out 6-7%. So eventually your money will go to zero. So it's more important when you get older to manage your money more strategically because of inflation. And remember, we didn't have to deal with inflation for quite a while, but we know because of the pandemic and all the money that's been given out to people, inflation is going to seep its head in the economy late into the year or next year. So if you're riffing your money and it's not keeping up with the amount of money that you're taking out, eventually it's going to go to zero. So, you really have to do some thinking now.
And that's the problem, right? Whether it's taxes or inflation or making sure that you do have your money, if you're not doing it right, it's like shoveling sand against the tide. The
Right.
tide is going to win. And you've got to make sure that you are working with the right tools and working strategically to make sure that you are making up for that tide, making up for the push against your money and the pull taking your money away from you.
And all these terminologies in our business, LIRAs, RIF, RSPs, TFSAs, things like that, is very daunting to a lot of people. And what happens is, I think we get confused, we get so overwhelmed that I won't bother.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the problems. But I think after all these years of doing what I do, the one thing I noticed is you really need to sit down with an outsider, your advisor, because we're really an outsider looking in, and make some strategic plan for your life, for when you get to a certain age, how you're going to send your money to if something happens to you prematurely, what happens to the spouse, with your RSPs, your TFSAs, things like that. And there's little terminologies that we don't worry about. So, for example, there's something called a successor annuitant, which is I don't know, funny word, but it really helps to save taxes. So a successor annuitant on your RIF, maybe we'll get into that after the break about both TFSAs and RIFs, what you should do.
Terrific. And that's coming up on Your Life, Your Money, as we learn more about the timing of your RIF, when you should be turning that RRSP into a RIF. If you want to reach Kelvin to talk about this or anything else to do with your money life, please give him a call, 416-457-7526. That's 416-457-PLAN. And you can always visit his website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. And don't forget, you can listen to past shows as well. So if you've heard this and you want to play it back for your spouse or a friend or anyone else, send it, share it to anyone. You can do that. All these past shows get posted. This show will get posted so that you can share it with your friends and family as well. So you want to say, hey, I heard Kelvin, the money guy, say this. Perfect way to share it is by going over to askkelvin.ca and sharing that link with your friends later on and sharing the wisdom that Kelvin is dropping on us here. 416-457-7526. That's 416-457-PLAN. Whole lot more of your life, your money, continuing here with Kelvin, the Money Guy, on Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
You are listening to a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of or otherwise represent the advertiser. The opinions expressed therein are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
And welcome back to Your Life, Your Money here on Global News Radio 640 Toronto. Thank you for making us part of your Sunday morning. I am Chris Creston. I'm joined as always by Kelvin, the Money Guy. Kelvin is one of the top financial advisors in the country, and he's just a great guy to get to know and a great guy to have on the radio so that you can benefit from his years of experience and you can benefit from his knowledge. If you want to expand on the way that you can benefit from his years of experience and beyond just listening to him on the radio, you can call him anytime at 416-457-7526. That's 416-457-PLAN. And you can visit his website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. And if you didn't have a chance to write that down, don't worry. I say it many times as the show goes on here. And as the show goes on, we've been talking about turning your RSP into a RIF, some of the strategies and best ways to do that, to make sure that you are saving as much money as possible and making sure that you have as much money for yourself, for your family, so that you can live a comfortable, happy, safe retirement and not have to worry about running out of money or not have to worry about paying money needlessly in taxes that you could better keep for yourself so that you don't have to go crying poor to the tax man later on. And one of the things that we were talking about as we wrapped up the last segment was sort of the succession plan. And I know Kelvin understands this because he's the money guy a lot more than I will. And I think it was successor annuity. I can't remember exactly the words that you said before the break, but Kelvin, what is it that you were getting to before we took the break?
Right. So I'm not a tax guy. I work with tax accountants and so on, so that if I get a question asked to me, I don't know the answer, I go and I seek the answer for a client, right? So one thing I found is you leave your RIF to your spouse tax-free. You could leave it to them tax-free. If your spouse is named as beneficiary of your RIF, it can be transferred to their RSP or their own RIF. But if you name them as a spouse, if you name your spouse as a successor annuitant, they can take over your RIF tax-free and start receiving RIF payments. In both cases, your RIF will not make up part of the estate and you will avoid probate taxes. So people really have to understand that. Sit down with your advisor or your accountant and maybe go over that and see where it could save you money. So it's just the little things. And also that applies to your TFSA. So look at your beneficiary when you set up your TFSA and make sure that the beneficiary is the successor annuitant, your spouse, right? And you'll save a lot of it. What I've noticed, it's the little thing in our world, in our money world, that saves you lots of money. It's not the big things. Like I say, we worry about the stock markets going up and down, and we're going to lose all our money and so on. And we can't control that, but we can control the amount of tax that we're going to pay and when we're going to start paying the taxes and when we're going to turn our money into our RSPs, into a RIF. There's three things you can do when you turn your money into a RIF. You can take a lump sum payment, pay a lot of tax. You can transfer it to an annuity, or you can roll them over into a RIF that pays a regular payment every month or every quarter or every 6 months, whatever you may choose to do. And there's so many neat things you can do with the RIF that I think we need to start exploring it. And I don't think we really talk about it too much, RIFs, because maybe, like you said, maybe when we think of RIFs, we're thinking, man, we're getting old, right? Because that's really how we associate risk with, is that, man, I'm 70 or 71. But it doesn't have to be the case. It could be a really great tax planning tool for many of us, but we have to explore that.
I talked to a lot of people who have said to me that it's that 70 years, that's where you really start to feel old. That's where you start to feel like you're getting to that point. Maybe you've been retired for a little while. Maybe you're just retiring at that point, but you're starting to feel like you're, time's catching up with you, and I can perfectly understand why you might be worried about it. But the best way to alleviate any worry is by coming up with a plan and finding a solution. If you're worried about that roof of yours, you think needs fixing, best way is to plan to fix it and then fix it. You're worried about your car that's making that clunking noise. Well, best way to deal with that is to plan to fix it and then fix it. So you're worried about your retirement, you're worried about not being comfortable as you're getting older. Best way to alleviate that worry is to come up with a plan and then fix it, and then make sure that you plan well in advance, because you're working, you're putting your money away in RSPs. The end game is that RIF. That is what you're saving for, is to get paid out in retirement, and to ignore it is to ignore your retirement and ignore the thing that you're saving for. And that's something that I got to remind myself all the time. And I think that I'm not coming here as a guy on the radio telling you what to do. I'm coming here as a guy who's learning right along with you and learning from the big money brain of Kelvin, the money guy, and having access to him is absolutely great. And not just on the radio. You can call him 416-457-7526. That's 416-457-PLAN.
And one thing is, we got to remember, we're living longer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, most people will live more longer in retirement than they did working.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, but you have to make sure you structure things properly so you don't run out of money.
Right.
So in 2015, the federal budget reduced RIF payments. So it took it down to 4% when you're 65 rather than I think it was like 6 or 7. And what that did, it really reflected, it was really telling us something that, we're living longer. So the federal government, did something good by saying, listen, you don't have to take all that money out because the more you take out now, the more you have to pay tax and so on. So the RIF minimum payments, provide people with more flexibility when they're planning their retirement income. And part of this whole RIFs and lifts and RSPs and all that kind of stuff, I think we need to sit down and say, how much money do we need when we retire? Right? How much does my CPP pay? How much my OS pay? And then maybe after the break, we'll have a little conversation about that. And
perfect. That's a great place to continue as we talk about your RSPs and your RIFs, turning that RSP into a RIF and planning for your retirement. 416-457-7526 is the number to get a hold of Kelvin. That's 416-457-PLAN. And don't forget to visit his website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. You got a question about your money? Don't ask Google, ask Kelvin. That's askkelvin.ca. A whole lot more of your life, your money, continuing here on Global News Radio, 640 Toronto.
You are listening to a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of or otherwise represent the advertiser. The opinions expressed therein are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
And welcome back to Your Life, Your Money, here with Kelvin, the money guy. You can visit his website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. And you can call him 416-457-7526. That's 416-457-PLAN. And Kelvin, this hour we've been talking about RSPs and turning those RSPs into a RIF so that you can better plan for your retirement and better strategize. You don't have to do it when you're 71. You can start earlier. And if you've missed the beginning of the show, you can go back and listen to past shows as well and figure out some of the strategies that Kelvin talked about. And if you want to ask him a question, 416-457-7526. You need a second opinion, 416-457-PLAN. Talk to Kelvin about the strategies that you could put in place to better plan for your retirement and the timing of turning that RSP into a RIF. And Kelvin, last segment, you were talking about how we're just living longer. And I said, good problem to have, but you mentioned there's a lot that comes with that. You've got to plan for a longer road ahead as well.
Well, think about it. If you're 75 and the government said the minimum you got to take out of your RIF is 5.8%, well, you better make sure you're making 5.8% because you're certainly going to live till you're 90, I would imagine, is what statistics tell us. So if you're making 3%, but you're taking 5, well, it doesn't take a genius to figure out one day you'll run out of money.
Right.
So I think on a go forward, it's more important to manage your money properly. I mean, without taking a lot of the risk. So you really want to be strategic about how the mixture of your assets, equities, bonds, fixed income, and so on. The traditional way that we did it before is not maybe the right way to do it anymore because of everything that's changed in the world. So we really need to, bonds don't pay very much. As you know, GICs don't pay anything. So we can't rely on those things to let our money live as long as we will. So we don't want to run out of money. So things that you need to do, really use the RIF as your partner. So for example, you can get a regular income stream with no withholding taxes on minimum payments. So maybe explore that, Maybe you want to base your RIF payments on your spouse's age if it's advantageous, meaning if they're younger than you, right? Income splitting. When you're 65, you can income split. So you lower both your incomes. Some people qualify for the pension income, the $2,000 tax break. Some people don't know about it. We mentioned the successor annuitant, where Your money can be transferred tax-free to a spouse on death or whatever may happen. And look at the new minimum RIFF withdrawal plans that the government started back in 2015. So all these things, if we combine all these things together, we won't outlive our money. Our money will do fine. And like I say, every 3.5 months, you revisit your money to make sure you're keeping up with wherever you are in your life, and get a financial advisor and let them worry about these things for you, so you can go and live your life and don't worry too much about money and things like that anymore, So,
and it's good to have a pro in your corner. You need a coach. You need, the best boxers have a pro in their corner. You don't go into a fight alone. You don't enter that ring without having a pro in your corner. And it's the same thing with your money life. And that's why it's important to have a good financial advisor. And, the thing is that a lot of people my age are probably listening right now and thinking, you know what, Kelvin, you know what, Chris, I've got this robot doing it for me. I've got this website and they're helping me with my finances and I'm sort of helping myself, but they can't tell you about this stuff. They can't help you with this stuff. No. And they're not going to be able to quell your fears and your concerns and guide you along the path the way having a good, experienced financial advisor would do. And
the emotions,
mm-hmm.
You get passionate about what you do. Like, we do this for a long time and you're passionate about things. You feel for people and people tell you their concerns that they'll never tell robo-advisor about, mm-hmm. right? So I think those are the things that you're going to miss if you go all this robo way that they're going. But majority of people, when you look at statistics, the majority of older Canadians want the old guy like us.
Mm-hmm.
They want this conversation. I think the younger people want to do the robo thing, but it shows that as they get older and they turn into their 40s, 50s, they want this face-to-face stuff. They want the chatting and things like that. You can't take away the emotions. That's the whole thing. No matter how smart we get and things like that, people need the contact. Look, we've been locked down for how long? 18 mm-hmm. months, something like that. And we're dying to get out, right? We're dying to go to bars and restaurants,
baseball games.
Yeah, I hear you. It's coming back, right?
There's so much that we're dying to do and dying to reach out and touch each other and do and really understand each other in a better way. And I think that ultimately the need for a real human being to guide your finances, whether it's on Zoom or whether it's in a person face-to-face mm-hmm. meeting where you can reach out and shake the advisor's hand, it's always going to be needed, because like you said, emotion, the one thing that the computers and the robots can't replicate and can't understand are emotion. They can try and they can mm-hmm. manipulate emotion. Look at social media. Right. Social media is geared by algorithms that manipulate your emotions. But do you want to be manipulated, or do you want to be helped and you want to be guided? And I think that that's why you want to have a real human being as your financial advisor. Listen, you know what? The enterprise ran fine with Mr. Data. Mr. Data helped out a lot, but he didn't. You know what? They needed a bunch of humans and a bunch of feelings to really guide them the right way. And I think that that's what you need when you're looking at your financial team, right. Your financial advisor.
And think of Google. When you type something in Google, it's giving you the answer that you want.
Right.
It always comes up with, man, I was right.
Yeah.
Because it's the algorithms that come up with these things. It'll never tell you you're wrong, because nobody wants to tell you you're wrong. You always want to hear you're right. And Google does that, right?
And do you want an echo chamber, or you want someone who's going to be able to tell you something that you didn't already know? Do you want someone who's been there before, seen the pitfalls of other people, and seen the ways that other people have succeeded? More importantly, let's stay optimistic here. You've seen in your career a lot of people succeed, and a lot of people have really successful and comfortable retirements. Yes. And I think that is the goal that most of us have, and that most of you out there have as well. So, you know what, if you need help with your retirement saving, if you've got an RSP and you're thinking about turning it into a RIF, if you're 35, maybe not yet, but if you're getting 55, 65 and you're looking for a chance to make sure that you're being strategic about that money, and whether you're splitting it with your spouse or whether you're making sure that you're taking a little bit now and a little bit later, these are the strategies that you can tap into when you talk to Kelvin, the money guy. And you can visit his website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. And you can call him anytime, 416-457-7526. That's 416-457-PLAN. Kelvin, looks like we're out of time. Thanks again for making it a great Sunday morning here.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Have a great day.
Thank you. And to everyone out there, have a great day as well. Askkelvin.ca is that website, askkelvin.ca.
The preceding was a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of or otherwise represent the advertiser. The opinions expressed therein are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of Global News Radio 640 Toronto.